Tired of coffee that just wakes you up and then drops you off like your ex's emotional baggage? Meet Mystic Monkey, the deluxe mushroom coffee from Monkey Werx. Dark roast? Check. Chocolate and caramel notes? Oh yeah. Organic lion's mane and chaga mushrooms? You bet your brain it does. This isn't your grandma's mushroom soup. This is high performance, brain boosting, gut loving, smooth sipping jungle juice. Feel sharp? Stay chill, and maybe, just maybe, unlock the secrets of the universe. Or at least remember where you left your keys. Mystic Monkey. Brew it, sip it, transcend your to-do list. Only at monkeywerx.com. Works for the soul.
All right. Hey, welcome, folks. This is going to be your SITREP. It's 7/8/2025, and we're coming to you live here from the Monkey Lounge in the great state of Texas. And so today we're going to be talking about several different things. We're going to be going into the flight data with respect to all the cloud seeding and everything that's going on here over Texas. I'll even show you up in the Dakotas where they're doing it as well. Hundreds of flights last 30 days. And then, of course, we're going to talk about what happened with, we went into the 4th of July in this state of high alert. We had a 90% uptick in surveillance flights over the United States. And I'm going to throw a little game theory at you as to what happened there. And then we're going to also talk about, just very briefly, we'll go into the Epstein list piece. So, hey, look, by the way, if you haven't tried the Mystic Monkey, this has lion's mane in it. It's fantastic coffee. It just really, really gets your brain popping and firing, clears the fog, but it really supports brain health. We also have our own supplements now, lion's mane, and we've got just several different ones, whether the cordyceps or a blend. So jump over there on the monkeywerx.com and get your hot little hands on them. And I think you're going to be really happy you did so because, it is a game changer. So, all right, look, we're going to start out over here. Now, I am going to change kind of how I roll into all of this. Normally, I'll show you all the flights and we go through and I get you, the drones and everything that's been happening. This time, I want to just kind of show you the articles that tie to the flight data here, okay? So, first and foremost, this one's going to trigger you. I just about fell out of my chair when I saw this. Talk about an insult to our intelligence, folks. I would love to hear what you think about this in the chat, because I am sure you guys have something to say over this as well. This tells me that our government is beyond fixing, right? The fact that you can show us redacted lists of clients and then have the audacity to come out and tell us that he didn't have any clients, I mean, give me a break, all right? He didn't blackmail anybody. No, he didn't have to. He probably was working for some other agency. They were the ones doing the blackmail. All right. And he definitely didn't kill himself. Look, I'm just going to full disclosure here. The White House contacted me after he didn't kill himself and asked me for flight data. All right. That I provided. Okay. And then to go beyond that, they actually gave me launch lat of his location, right? And you're talking down just north of Caracas to where he was after he didn't kill himself. So for them to come out and say this, you talk about I'm speechless. Look, let's just say he didn't have a list, all right? Which, that's just hogwash, all right? You got Miss Maxwell. She had a list, right? In fact, they protected that list. They wouldn't disclose it. They still haven't disclosed it, right? And if it wasn't them, look at P. Diddy, right? You got three people right there, the trifecta, that don't forget about Allison Mack and all the other human trafficking stuff that was happening in the past. I think what has happened here is that our government and our government officials' names are all over these lists. And I think if you were to disclose that, you would have a national crisis on your hands because it would reveal just how corrupt our government is, agencies included. And if you don't think the agencies are corrupt, just drop this down. And this is the guy that came out and said he did, that he actually killed himself, right? So, yeah, let's move on. Yeah, you're already triggered. So you're going to go through just a whole range of emotions this time, okay? Because you're going from angry to sad, right, of what's happening here in Texas. But you're going to be angry about it, too, when I show you the data behind it. All right, this is Trump's calendar for today, just meeting with his cabinet, right? Okay, this is where I go, what are the odds? What are the odds? This new proposed budget calls for NOAA cuts, including National Weather Service, and then all of a sudden you have a flood that takes out 100 plus people in counting. What are the odds? You know, this is the kind of thing where you hear about false flags, and usually it's around gun control issues, but it's always because somebody is trying to get their agenda back on the table to show how important it is, right, and why. They need to have it, okay? Then you go here, right? Never let a good crisis go to waste. Remember that? That came from Rahm Emanuel, right? Press and pundits push a false story on Trump cuts causing Texas tragedy. Look, I'm just going to show you. We'll take you over here to the headlines. And this right here, the National Weather Service had extra staff during the Texas floods, not impacted by Trump's cuts. So it is absolutely false narrative. They're trying to push it. Don't take the bait, all right? But when you start to look at this storm that just so happened to roll in, look, there are some very compelling videos out there that would indicate that there was something definitely squirrely about what happened, okay? What I'm going to show you today are hard facts. I'm going to show you flight traces. I'm going to show you tail numbers and dates, okay, over the last 30 days. In fact, let's just jump on over here right now so you can see this is, these are the traces the last 30 days of cloud seeding operations. This is conducted by companies called West Texas Weather Modification LLC, Weather Modification LLC, and SOAR, S-O-A-R, Seeding Operations and Atmospheric Research. Now, right in this little spot, you're going to see Kerrville right here, okay? Look at the amount of flights over that area. What happens is if you're cloud seeding over a 30-day period, you start to saturate the ground. So what that means, and then look at this. These are all the other flights, tail numbers, timestamps, okay? Not just Texas, but they do it up in the Dakotas as well. So if you see flooding happening up there or something just seems odd, you know, you get these storms with massive hail or high winds, that is all tied to cloud seeding, all right? And then again, just look at the thick traces, 30 days over that area, back and forth, back and forth. That's Kerrville right there. Okay. What happens is the ground is, think of it as if you had a sponge in your sink that was full of water and you took a gallon of water and you just poured it on top of that sponge, then what would happen is the water would just run right off. And so what ends up happening is there are people that are camped out on dry riverbeds away from the area that it's raining. They don't even understand or realize that 10 miles upriver, it is raining cats and dogs. And of course, the water is not being soaked up by the ground. It becomes an instant wall of water headed their direction. They don't stand a chance. By the time they realize it, they look, it's on them, all right? They just hear this rushing. They may see some trees moving. Everybody is just kind of locked in, looking at it. And then when it comes around the corner or over the riverbed, they start trying to run and it's too late. They're already caught up in it. People are climbing into trees, whatever they have to do to survive. So I think Ken Paxton, I think Greg Abbott, I think all of these guys need to open an investigation and look at the flights that are done by these companies. If they don't do so, then it just tells you all you need to know, okay? There's a reason they don't do so. This right here, I saw MTG was going out and actually calling for a ban on weather modification. We see certain states already implementing those bans, not allowing them to do these things. This needs to be stopped because I think they are causing geo-engineered chaos. Absolutely. Now, it doesn't just stop there. If you think that this is The only spot it happens, let me just show you. I'm going to take you over to Germany. If you're in Europe and you're thinking, man, you know what? We kind of get similar stuff happening over there. Take a look at this. This is the Germans and their weather modification companies, right? They get out and see all the little like weird flight patterns where they just kind of fly in. It's not just this straight back and forth. They're flying in and out of around clouds. That's the seeding. This is exactly what a cloud seeding flight would look like, right? Because they're dipping around the edge of those clouds and putting that stuff in there. Now I'm backing out and looking because we caught them out here in the Caribbean in hurricane season just before North Carolina got whammied too. So we always keep an eye on them. I don't see anything out there for them. But hey, look, it's not just them. Take a look at the French. French do it too, right down on their southern border. As you can see, just a handful of flights there. Again, last 30 days. Okay, now let's look at NASA, NOAA. You want to see what they're doing the last 30 days? Now, some of these high altitude stuff, like what you see here, it's going to be a U2. More than likely, that is looking for some of the those high-end minerals that we need to fight our wars, right? But the rest of that stuff, man, not so much. You can see a couple little flights here out over the Kerrville area. That's probably recent. Now, this piece right here, that looks like cloud seeding. So I would have to say that NASA NOAA is probably doing a little bit there out around Abilene. And then you can see them near Houston, along the coast, some high altitude stuff as well. All right, but this is the last 30 days. You can see them out over the Gulf, out off the East Coast. All right, and then this really, I don't know what they do up here in the Northeast. I thought maybe they're counting lobsters or something. I don't know. Kind of bizarre. And of course, just a little flyover the Dakotas, but not really too much there. And then this, they may be actually looking for stuff. Maybe rain melt, if I was a betting man, over the mountains. And then you can see them up there in Alaska near the old HARP location as well, and in that region. So that's NASA and NOAA, all right? So the reality is these companies, they do it for profit. There are other ones out that have drone companies. I saw some of that also kind of tied into it. I'm really getting concerned about what hurricane season is going to look like this year. Just throwing that out there in advance, okay? All right, and then this is just meteorologists, just further confirmation. Meteorologists say the National Weather Service did its job in Texas, saying that DOGE cut hundreds of jobs at the NWS, but experts who spoke to Wired say the agency accurately predicted the state's weekend flood risk. So, yeah, here's where they miss. Because meteorologists, they will not talk about cloud seeding because it will basically, they get blacklisted in the industry. So the reason they can never actually and accurately give weather predictions is because everything's getting messed with. So it's very hard to predict the weather, even with computer models, because computer models aren't taking into consideration cloud seeding. And so they come out, and you hear it come out of their mouth from time to time like, wow, we didn't even see that storm. We didn't have any weather in the forecast for that day. And we get large hail, 70-mile-an-hour winds here in North Texas. Just crazy stuff, okay? So this is why they can't predict it. It's because they're constantly manipulating it. And it's not just here in the United States. I showed you Germany does it. Look, Russia has it. India has it. China does it big time. They all do it. And you're just basically messing with, how things naturally flow on the planet. You're starting to manipulate it, and you're going to pay the consequences for that. All right, moving on. This just gives you the latest number. It's now over 100. And this Camp Mystic counselors and campers were caught in this, and you can just see after everything recedes, stuff just everywhere. It's horrible. They're saying at least 104 people are dead across 6 counties, Kerr County. All right, officials reported 84 deaths, those of 56 adults and 28 kids. Now, there were some good news stories where they did find some people up in the trees and were able to rescue them. I think a group of girls were rescued. It was around, I think, a dozen or so, maybe a little bit more, 30 feet up in trees. All right, Horrible. Okay. Now, you saw me talk about all of the ISR activity leading up to the 4th of July, and I'm going to tell you this one, at first I thought after we got to the 5th and I was like, okay, what happened? Why was there nothing, right? We had a 90% uptick in ISR activity over the United States. ISR, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. They were scrambling, looking for these Iranian sleeper cells in our country. They started arresting people, but they didn't get them. They knew they couldn't get them, and I think the clock was running out. Rubio cancels his trip to headed over to Japan and Korea for an emergency Middle East flight. Now, if you look at the flights around the time that he left, they hid the flight. They wiped it. Why? If we knew he was canceling something and headed to the Middle East and it was tied to Gaza, you got nothing to hide, right? You'd show the flight, him coming in, you'd show where he landed, and there would be something about these talks. You hear nothing about it. Look, there's nothing over the Middle East, anywhere in the Middle East. He flew over there in the dark, so to speak, okay? That tells you that they were trying to hide something. I believe, based on the drop-off in ISR flights after the 4th, that Rubio more than likely went over there, met with the clerics, right, and basically just handed them a suitcase of money and said, call off the dogs. Maybe bought us a little bit of time. That's what my theory is. That's my game theory, and I think it may actually hold water. Because why would you send him over to talk about Gaza when you've got Netanyahu coming to the White House yesterday, right? No, he went out in a panic. He went out like, wiped his flight. You couldn't trace him or anything. He's over there probably meeting face to face with, the Ayatollahs and all the other clerics and basically going, look, here, call off the dogs. Then all of a sudden, we got nothing. All right. Take a look at the ISR flights since the 5th to today. All right. You can see just a couple headed across the country, across the mountains. Again, remember that. A little bit doing some stuff there over New Mexico. Okay, and then you see them, just some dispatch flights. It's not a lot. It's back to almost normal limits. They're probably still looking for people if I was a betting man, but they're not in panic mode because somebody called off the dogs. That one goes right into near Fort Carson, right over Fort Carson. So I do think that it wasn't soft targets. More than likely, it was going to be infrastructure like dams, power plants, et cetera. That's the talk about cyber attacks as well. But then you see this, and maybe even hospitals, right? A little bit of flights over D.C. Then you get over here to Europe. Not a lot. I mean, it is definitely over Finland, kind of dropped off. Get down to the Middle East. See that over Israel, right? Really nothing to speak of. Okay, a little bit there, South Korea. And you drop down a little bit up here in the Northern Territory of Australia. Okay, Intel flights. Now you go look at the drone flights. Look at the drone flights. We'll start off in Japan. All right, just a handful, not anything off the charts. Nothing down under. We get over to the Middle East and, we'll hit the Europe. Nothing in Europe. And then you look around. Turkey's got some low altitude stuff north of Libya, some stuff south of Crete. And then you'll see there is definitely some flight activity kind of around the Persian Gulf over to the Gulf of Oman. All right. Then you go over to the United States. Zero. Not a thing. Come on. I mean, if that doesn't tell you something stinks to high heaven, right? Just all of a sudden drops off, and it's even below what we normally would see. And then this is going to be your R135 activity. Nothing to speak of, right? I got one little blip. We can pop down right here off the coast of Israel. A little something going dark over the Red Sea. Really nothing to speak of. Like, we just went from super high volume to nothing. Look at the AWACS flights over the United States. You got one little blip there, probably an E2, not even an AWACS. Then you get over to Europe, You got a little bit over France. You can go check out the Middle East. I see what looked to be a little blip pop out right there. Okay. But nothing else. So, yeah, very, very unusual. My guess is somebody got paid to call off the dogs. And so it basically bought us a little bit of time. Don't lose sight either that I think we were hedging when I showed you all the C-17 flights, the KC-135 tankers flying into Doha in the region. I think they were expecting we're going to get attacked and we're going to have assets in place to respond rapidly. And I think is what happened. So don't think for a minute we're out of the woods, folks, because I can guarantee you all of this stuff is still in play. It's just postponed. All right. Now go over here. Let's look at what's been going on. It looks like they've got air traffic back up over. So look, if we're in here buying them off, then now you've got, they feel like they can pretty much operate regularly. We'll see what happens. You got a little bit of unrest here. Nearly 450,000 Afghans have left since June 1. I guess that's just right on the border of Iran. And then you've got all this stuff happening in Israel. Israel is still just popping off. I mean, if you go over here and look at Gaza, and you can see now there is supposed to be some kind of an announcement for a Gaza ceasefire. We'll see if it holds. And then, of course, you can go over here to Yemen, and you can see Israel's still lighting Yemen up, right? This place, they're getting popped left, right, and center because Yemen has decided to start launching stuff back at Israel again. And once again, Iranian proxies, okay? Iran won't do it. They let the proxies do it. Then take a look around. Look at the amount of oil tankers parked out here in the Gulf of Oman. And then over on this side, notice the traffic flowing through here is pretty light. Look at how much stuff is parked. Why is it parked? That is what nobody's reporting on. Cargo vessels parked, oil tankers parked. Why? Right? It's because Iran has put stuff in here. Remember, 22% or 20%. Sorry, I don't know where I got the two. 20% of the world's oil passes right through here. And evidently Iran put mines out here. So they're probably having to be escorted. It's a slower process as they come through. And I wouldn't be surprised if, oh, hey, look, you want to be escort? It's going to cost you a little bit extra moolah, right? All right. This is what your boxes look like over the United States. You've got some active mill ops happening. Exercises, danger boxes off the west coast of Florida out over the Gulf of America. You've got them up the east coast, up the west coast, right? And then it looks like around Iceland is also pretty busy and active. Look at Europe, just completely covered up. Absolutely crazy. All right, then you've got stuff all the way down here. Australia's starting to get a lot of boxes down here. Exercises will take place. So you've got a danger tempo down near Taz. And then more up the coastline there. Philippines is, yeah. All right. We're going to start watching the airport as it relates to the Alligator Alcatraz. I'll keep eyes on it. If there's anything to report, we'll start right now I'm just baselining it, making sure, seeing what comes and goes, what's regular flights, what may be new. But look at this. They've got 200 Marines being deployed to Florida as the Pentagon approves more support to ICE. There we go. So you can see just the stack up here on this runway. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. I think it's definitely worth noting to see, how many people are getting taken down there. You can kind of get a good back of the napkin number just by looking at the type of aircraft, how many are arriving. So it tells you these are either going to be really bad dudes going in here, so it'd be maybe smaller aircraft, or if it starts coming in large amounts, then that tells you that they're using it as an overflow. They're not putting them in prisons. They're going to put them down here into this spot. So anyway, we'll continue to watch it. And as soon as I've got kind of a baseline on what really is coming and going on a regular basis, we can figure out what we're looking at. Okay. All right. But this will be Homestead, by the way, where the airport that they fly into to get to this. It'll be the closest one out there. All right. Now, Iran's army gives missile update. They say they have thousands ready to launch. That was today. All right. So the fatwa against Trump, so basically the kill order, all right, won't work out well for the Ayatollah. That's Tom Homan. Yeah, this is one guy I do have mad respect for. I think he's doing his job. He's the only guy out of the entire lot that he's appointed, and maybe Kristi Noem, I think, that are really, really getting her done, you know. But this dude doesn't pull punches. That's just the kind of guy you want in there, because he is going to be basically, taking names, man. All right. So Iran has stocks of thousands of missiles and drones secured and ready to use despite Israeli airstrikes, and it is prepared to use them against any new attacks. All right. So see what happens here. Again, I think the ceasefire, I'll be shocked if it holds. They may try to push. You may see some Abraham Accords come in to play. I just don't see Iran signing up to that quite yet, unless we give them everything they need and want. And then they would probably be like, sure, yeah, we'll take it. But I don't know that Israel would buy off on that. So we'll keep eyes on that piece. All right, Biggs Army Airfield, as we kind of get through the back of this, you'll notice still a lot of Glex flights are up and flying around in the area. Those are the ones that I just showed you on the flight trace. It's just a handful that are out still looking at stuff. You've got a priority air transport coming out of Los Alamitos. And so let's see. And then, of course, you've got a 747 National Cargo that comes in, an Atlas Air that comes in from Indy. And then this one departs destination unknown. More than likely, that's headed over to the Middle East if I was a betting man. All right. And then we start looking at, this is Ramstein. Just to give you an idea of stuff coming in. This one's coming in from Dover, 747. I did read that Trump is basically going to let Ukraine start getting stuff again. So I guess when Russia just popped some stuff off over the weekend, a huge attack, that Trump basically is going to give Ukraine some more stuff, right? And just eyes on that one. We'll keep going as, we talk about the Iran piece. Let me show you another headline here. We'll take this out and take a look at this piece first. So Russia is now saying they're ready to supply Iran with enriched uranium for peaceful nuclear use. Do you really think that's going to happen? Peaceful. And then the Iranian president says the U.S. administration should not get involved in a war that does not concern it, but rather concerns Netanyahu, who seeks to destroy the region. So again, a lot of posturing happening. That was just 12 hours ago. The other one was 10 hours ago. Remember that Pakistan has basically said that they'll just give them a nuke or several nukes. So the reason I'm pointing these two out is because you start getting into Ezekiel 38. You start talking about Iran, Turkey, and Russia coming against Israel. So you can see the posturing happening, the alliances taking shape or becoming stronger. Then you talk about the kings of the East, which are also part of that, right? You got Sudan as part of that. China, they've been parking stuff in the Sudan for months now, all right? Helping out the Houthis and helping out Iran in terms of painting targets for them to strike. But then you got this one. Iran receives the HQ-9B long-range air defense system from China. So the other ones didn't work well, right? The S-300s. And so now it looks like China's going to give them their version. We'll see how that works, because I'm sure that these will come into play. Just about guarantee it, all right? Okay, let's move on. Then you get over here. This is a camber flight. Again, I showed you the 747 leaving Biggs Army Airfield, headed to destination unknown. Doesn't look like it is airborne quite yet. Actually, let me click on it and see. Normally it comes off the board unless you can find it. Let me just get a quick glance around the world to see if we've got it. Oh, there. It looks like, well, no, that's a different one. That's a 767 coming out of Crete, headed down to the Middle East. And then this one, we'll just hit it and see if it gives me It's en route, but it doesn't. Oh, look at that. Just goes dark. Yeah, doing that a lot lately. Don't want you knowing where they're going. That's okay. We got a general idea where it's going. All right, 747. And then this is coming out of Halifax. And then that is the Brits. And I'll back it up to see if we can see them on the map. Of course, we don't even see them on the map. So, all right. Man, this is just getting more and more interesting to try to figure out where all these folks are going. So, all right, folks. So listen, that's going to do it for our SITREP today. And I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. We'll be back with you on Thursday. Until then, stay frosty, keep that powder dry. We are far from being out of the woods. In fact, I think things are going to be a little more hard to track and get our hands on and eyes on, just because I think they know we're watching them very closely. And so they're going to start to try to throw us off a little bit, right? We've seen it with the decoys going one direction because they know people look at the flight trackers. With the B-2s, right? They showed everything headed off to the Pacific when reality was there's a group going across the Atlantic. So, fun times. All right, you guys be safe out there. We'll talk soon. God bless. Monkey out.